So in this chapter, we are going to talk about the mixed design ANOVA. And when we compare to the independent and the repeat measure ANOVA, I guess the only difference is because the mixed design ANOVA, it has two or more independent variables. But for the repeat measure, it only has only one independent variables. So for the mixed design ANOVA, it is used to test for differences between two or more independent groups, and they are assigning participants to repeat measure to different conditions. In terms of data, it has two or more independent variables and one dependent variables, and also it has to make the sparsity assumptions. So I want to introduce my research topic. So in my research question, I want to find out the effect of different therapies and therapy experience on people who suffer from depression. So in my research question, I will have two different independent variables. The first is the different therapists. I will have three different therapists. The first one is CBT, and second one is ACT, and third one is motion focused therapy. And for the second independent variable, I will have the therapists with different working experience. So the first condition would be therapist with 1 year working experience, and the second condition is therapist with 10 years experience, and third is 20 years experience. So in each therapy, there will be three therapists within, and they are having different working experience. So in my data, I have so I want to import my data. So this is the data I have. So as you can see, I have the 20 participants in my design, and 10 males and 10 females, and they are going, each participant has to receive 9 conditions. So the first will be the CBT therapist with the therapist has only 1 year experience. The second condition is CBT therapy, and the therapist will be have the 10 years experience. So the others will be the same as it. So in the mixed design ANOVA, we are going to use the easy ANOVA, and also we are going to use the model to create a model to run ANOVA to see the interactions between all the conditions. So the first function would be the melt function. Because my data is a wide format, we want to transfer it to the known format. So the melt function is used to help us to change the data form. And this function is we use to create and name our 4 columns, and it should be the 4 columns would be participant, gender, groups, and the satisfaction. So for my research design, each participant has to rate on the range from 1 to 100 to represent their satisfaction for the therapist. So this is a 9 conditions has 9 different therapists. So each participant would have the different score for the different therapist. So the score is the satisfaction score. So right here we want to create the treatment, and it's separate as a CBT, ACT, and emotion therapies. And for this function, we create the experience, and it has 1 year experience, 10-year experience, and a 20-year experience. And for this function, we use to order our reformed data. And also, in order to get a better image of our data, we want to create a ggplot. We want to see how it represents by seeing the plot. So right here we can have the box plot of our data. So as we can see, the red one would be the therapist with only 1 year experience, and this is a 10-year experience. As we can see, the 10 years experience increased. The satisfaction of participant has increased from the 1 year to 10 years. But there is not significant difference between the 10-year and the 20 years. And also we can see the CBT has higher satisfaction over the ACT and the emotion focused therapy. So right here we use the by function, so we can see the descriptive stats for each conditions. It will include the mean and all the other descriptive stats for to interpret our dataset. So for the next, we want to create contrast. So first, we want to create a contrast. It's CBT versus ACT, and we set the CBT as -1, and we set the ACT as 1. So, and the second contrast is the ACT versus emotion focused therapy. So we want it add up, and the result should be 0. And right here, we want to combine those variable into the contrast, and for the treatment, and also this is the same thing, like we create a contrast. It's 1 year versus all, and 20 years, or 10 years versus 20 years, and we combine those variables to the working experience. In order to run the EasyAnova, we have to set the factors for gender and participants. So right here, we create the model to run the EasyAnova, and we get the results by running this function. So right here we get the result of the EasyAnova. As we can see, right here is the p-values, and here is the p-value. No, here is p-values. So the main effect is significant difference. And but there is no significant difference between gender, which means male and female, they rate the score basically the same level. And it shows there were significant difference among the treatment experience, and also the significant difference between the interaction of the treatment and experience. And also we can see the test for the reciprocity, and we can see for the treatment interaction of treatment and experience, and the interaction among the gender treatment experience, both the p-value less than 0.05, which means they violate the function, they violate the assumption. But for the other three groups, it doesn't it meets the assumption. And also we are safe to look at the f-test for the treatment experience and the interaction between the gender and the treatment. But in order to get a better interpretation for our data, we want to create the model. And right here we create the baseline and include the satisfaction and participant treatment experience. But we want to include each predictors into this model, and we have to use those functions to include each predictors. And right here, we also want to set the contrast, and the first contrast I said is for CBT versus other therapists. So I want to say the difference between CBT and other therapists, and also the emotion focused therapy versus other conditions. And the second contrast I want to set is the 1 year versus all the others. So I want to look at the working experience difference from the 1 year to 10 years or the 20 years. And also the other contrast group is 20 years versus all. So now we can run the ANOVA to see all the interactions among those groups. As we can see, the experience and treatment, all the p-values are less than 0.05, which means they have the main effect on participants' satisfaction. So in other words, we can conclude that there were significant main effects of the counseling experience on people who suffer from the depression, and they have the better score for the therapist who has more experience. And also for the treatment, it shows that there were significant main effects of the treatment over the data. But for the gender, the p-value is about 0.05. We can see that there is no difference between male and female participant in general.